Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. And today it is my special honor to have writer, director, actor extraordinaire Sean Patrick Flanery with us. Sean, thank you for being on our show. How are you doing?
Brother, thank you for having me. I'm doing I'm doing pretty amazing. I mean, just being in Cannes in the south of France at this film festival just kind of makes you feel a little bit better. It brightens up every aspect of your day. It's
I,
good, man. I feel
I,
good.
I'm
How about
sure
yourself?
I'm doing great, and I'm sure it does being there with all the celebrities, the people, the movies. Let me ask you a question: Is Frank and Penelope premiering at Cannes this year?
So we premiered at the Riviera International Film Festival in Italy, in right in between Corsica, Sardinia, and then the next stop, the very following week, we came to Cannes, and we screened the movie last night. So I mean, those two locations to put it on the big screen is it's beyond my wildest dreams. You
I
know,
saw the film, and I got to tell you, Sean, I absolutely loved it. Let's give people the lowdown on where they can watch it. It is releasing nationwide in 50 cities on June 3rd, which is just around the corner. The film, of course, is called Frank and Penelope. So let's just get right to it. Frank and Penelope is an action thriller romance. The way I like to describe it is Thelma and Louise meets the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. now Thelma and
I'll take it,
Louise
brother.
Now Thelma and Louise is mentioned and referenced quite a bit in the movie. Why was it important for you to put that Thelma and Louise reference in the film?
I wanted to introduce the idea of one taking their own life, and I wanted to do it metaphorically. Frank is not somebody that hits the nail on the head with his speaking, but he speaks in metaphor,
Uh-huh.
and he's quite poetic. And so, whenever somebody asks him a question like that, he references a film, counting on the fact that they've never seen the film and they won't know what he's talking about. But he feels good with himself because he fully, completely disclosed what his intention was.
Exactly.
And it was hidden behind their lack of knowledge or information on his
Absolutely.
reference.
We have to talk about the amazing performance by Kaylee Cowan as Penelope. Fairly newcomer, but she made this movie. She was just absolutely brilliant as Penelope, this multifaceted girl. So tell us how Kaylee came across your way. Was this the first time you met her? Did you see her on an audition tape and you're like, that's my Penelope?
Yeah, TU, our casting director, very, thinking outside the box is an overused term, but not with TU. Her and William Shockley, one of our producers, nine times out of 10, your casting director is going to bring you bankable names, etc. But she said, I want you to take a look at this girl. And it was evident from the first 2 minutes of her audition tape. There was something incredibly unique, rare, magnetic, and fucking special about this.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't an overnight decision, because then I discussed it with the producers. I said, hang with me for a minute. I know you've never heard this name, but let's just watch this.
Uh huh.
And one after the other, Alan Gilmer, Scott Dolezal, Chili, William Shockley, you're absolutely right. And we all agreed with you. And the same thing with Billy Budenich.
Oh, yeah.
Those two names in the movie, the two leads that nobody's ever heard of. And I think they cracked it out of the park. There is something incredibly, incredibly rare that they house inside their soul, and they throw it out on the screen. They
And
do it in spades, I think. I really got lucky with those two. I really did.
the chemistry, the on screen chemistry between those two is just, you feel it as a viewer. It touches you. Penelope is a survivor, I mean, in this world. She will do what she needs to do. She is a very smart girl. She knows how to play the system and survive. And right up through the very ending of the film, the viewers, at least for me, there is still that small lingering doubt if she's still playing an angle, okay, to survive with Frank. Was that your intention to sort of leave her because she's so mysterious? She is so good at playing the hustle. Was that your intention to sort of leave it open ended for the viewers to sort of decide on their own?
I would never, I'll bring the horse to water, but what corner they choose to drink from is up to them. But I will say this, she houses probably the most powerful attribute any human can possess, and that's the power of influence.
Yeah.
She used it in a lot of different ways, and she used it for the last time, so she thought, in the strip bar. And she admits such on the hood of the car to Frank. I won't disclose the information of the scene, but she kind of parked that. She took that quality and that usage and put it away. But then when life or death scenario happens, she decided to willingly pull that out of the pocket again and use it.
She's a survivor.
And sure enough, that shit will knock down mountains.
It definitely did. And it, like I said, she is a survivor. Now, let's talk about the Texas Chainsaw family. For lack of a better term, that's what I'm calling them. Are they, you helped pen the script. Are they just flat out crazy? Would you describe them as a cult? How would you explain the family in the middle of nowhere that owns a motel, very Norman Bates like? How would you describe them? What was your inspiration when you were just, putting this cult family together?
The inspiration was all kind of up here. As it says in the script, mercury got into the water. And as we all know, for those of us that eat way too much tuna fish, it can make you sometimes a little kooky. Well, if 10,000 times the dosage went into your water, it can rearrange your thinking process. But I wanted an air of logic to Chisos as well. I didn't want him to come from left field for left field's sake. Like every line of Chisos is something that he firmly believes, that he really knows to be true. And a lot of his lines make you think and go, well, he's not actually wrong. I don't know why. I don't agree with that, but I like a bad guy that sometimes you go, damn, he's got a point. Doesn't mean that he's right. No. Doesn't mean that you don't want him to, get splattered like a bug. But I want him to be multidimensional, and I want him to come from a place. I want all of his lines to be delivered in the context of, no, I know this to be true. Yeah. And here is wrong.
Absolutely.
And Kaylee and Jonathan Sheck against each other, they made for a powerful pair, man.
Absolutely. That's what I want to talk about. Jonathan, amazing job at Chisos. He was a great choice to cast him because as a cult leader, he's charming, charismatic, as we have seen throughout history. A lot of cult leaders are, if you want to classify them as a cult. The name Chisos, there's a little reference in the movie, I think with Penelope. Do you mean Jesus? And the other person going, no, Chisos. Was that just a comedic element that you put in? Was his name supposed to be Jesus, and because of their dialect being out in the middle of nowhere, they just pronounced it Chisos?
Well, his name is Chisos, Chisos. And that is a reference from some of my research from the mining companies. There was a Chisos mining company back in the day in that part of town where they did mine mercury. So I used that. But even to me, when it's thrown off the tongue, it does sound a little like cheese sauce. Yeah. Sometimes, the first time I Chisos, you would never think somebody's name is Chisos. But it sounds a little like Jesus. So I played with that, and it sounded a little like cheese sauce. And it's offensive if somebody misinterprets your name for something as base as cheese sauce. So I thought it had an adequate element of biblical reference, and on the other side, the cheese sauce, an adequate element of insult.
Perfect. When people read the synopsis, look at the poster, they might think Frank and Penelope, like, this is a Bonnie and Clyde type couple. They get together, like Thelma and Louise, and shit just spirals out of control. They go on a big crime spree. That is not what this movie is about. Um, so with the marketing and the posters and the synopsis, is that a loop you wanted to throw the viewers? Maybe going in expecting one thing, but to give them a completely different story altogether and make it that much better?
Well, at the movie's core, I think it's a horrific allegorical love story.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I've ever seen movie wise, every piece of music that I fall in love with has the element of love in it,
Yeah.
whether it's love's removal or love's insertion. And so at its core, I'm not a fan of action movies that just have action for action's sake. If the stakes aren't high enough, if I don't have a vested interest in people, it doesn't work for me. So at its core, I wanted it to be a story about humanity
Yeah.
and two people's blossoming love for one another. And I wanted to care about that love. I wanted to fear for that love's removal. And then surrounding it with violence that threatens to remove that love, and probably some horrific nightmares for some men and for some women out there. A couple of situations have happened which would be a nightmare. Everything that you have in your soul to invest in another human being, to think that potentially that could be removed like
Yeah.
that. Maybe it was just a lie. It's horrific to me.
It is.
So I think you know the scene that I'm talking about,
Mm-hmm.
but surrounding it with things like that really gave it a very punctual human element to me.
I
And
agree.
I hope that's realized on the screen.
I agree. Now, Frank and Penelope is your first feature film directorial debut, okay? As a
It is.
lifelong actor doing some huge hits, you have an impressive resume. Is directing something that, earlier on in your career, something that you knew you wanted to get into?
Yes, but in the right context. I've had an opportunity to direct in the past, but it's never been the right situation. And I'll give you an example. You can you can record a song. You can be one member of a 50-piece orchestra where you only come in at the third minute for about an eighth of a second, and then you never play again.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can be a solo artist. And although both of those people recorded a record, they both did very, very different things. Directing can be looked at in the same way. There are some directors that hardly make any decisions. And then I've worked with some directors that get an opportunity to make every creative decision that you see on the screen. I was interested in chasing something that I saw in my head, and this was the perfect opportunity for me to do that. I'm incredibly grateful because these opportunities, these unbridled opportunities for full creative freedom, they're not fleeting. They're the unicorn. They do not exist.
It doesn't happen very often.
It doesn't. But I looked out my back fence and there was one of those one-horned fuckers in my backyard. So I saddled that biatch up. I went for a gallop. And I hope it found another unicorn, procreated, and I hope to see a herd in my backyard.
I hope
I know
so.
it's
I hope
probably
so too.
rare, but man, I'd love an opportunity to do it again like that. But I completely understand the rare opportunity for creative freedom that I had, and I don't
Don't take it for granted. Don't take it for granted. Yeah. Now you have a pretty significant role in this film as well as the club manager. Your character doesn't have a name. We see you a lot in the beginning, and we also see you in the end. Was it always your idea to play the club manager, or was it sort of something that, we've auditioned people, but you know what? I can do this. Let me do this. Let me also step in front of the camera and play the club manager.
It was from coming out of the gate. It wasn't my idea to be in the film, but I mean, at my core, I started my first business when I was. Well, I mean, I had my first paper out when I was 8. I started my first real business on my own, a car detailing company, a mobile car detailing company, when I was in high school. So I'm a businessman at my core. I always knew, there's a couple of roles in this that I could do. I hope I don't have to. I hope we cast it. And God knows that if a better name comes in, let them do it. I don't care. I want the best product. But if we can't find somebody, I can certainly step in and do this.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I didn't set out to play the club manager. I had a great time doing it. It's a bookend, so it was like one day in the beginning and one day in the end, and it worked out. It worked out well. And by the time we shot that, my DP, my AD, my entire crew we were bonded. We were together. So it was okay to step on the other side of the camera, knowing you guys have exactly what we intend to shoot, and you're going to crack it out of the park. Yep. Center field into the parking lot, and they did.
Kevin Dillon is also in the film. He plays Sheriff Dalton. Sheriff Dalton does not have an expanded role in the film, but yet important. Was Sheriff Dalton written with Kevin in mind? Are you and Kevin friends? Did you invite him to be in this film? Tell us how Kevin Dillon became involved.
Well, his name is not Dalton. We actually show his calling card in the film, and he's got a very, very, very specific name. I want you to make a note, and if you look at it again,
I got to see it again. What is it?
Well,
if you don't want, I don't want you to spoil it, but I'll
I don't want to spoil it. But his middle name is Morrissey. And I want you to check it out and call me or shoot me a text and let me know what you think.
Okay, I totally missed that part. Now,
so check it out. It's a little Easter egg for some people that are bibliophiles, but it's my little homage to other area greatness.
And that's what's great. You put all these little things in there, like the Chisos and the card that I missed, apparently, that people really need to watch this movie twice to see everything. Now, the film credits the original story to John Thaddeus. How involved was he, and what were his thoughts on the film when he saw it?
John Thaddeus started out with a great story. He did. He's an incredibly talented writer, and he gave us a story to write that I thought was amazing. So, we went on a location scout, and I scribbled a couple of things down, and the gates opened. We came out of the shoot, and we made the film. I think he's very, very proud of it. I know he wrote a great story, and he's seen it, and he digs it.
Awesome. Now, you are from Texas, and the film was shot in Texas. You are from Texas, right?
Yep.
So what was it like shooting in your home state?
Well, Texas is about as big as 12 of the normal states.
Yeah.
So where we shot in Terlingua, or as I casually call it, the Ling Ling, that is the westernmost tip of Texas by El Paso. It's right across the border from Juarez, Texas. Pretty dangerous part of town, and there's nothing there. Alpine, Texas is the nearest grocery store. It's an hour and a half away. So it's nothing like where I live. I live in the boonies outside of Houston, but there's a grocery store 10 minutes away. I can get some sandwich bread if I need it. Yep. You can't in Ling Ling. It's crazy. But it was 110 degrees. We had threats of people going down with some heat stroke. We had huge lightning storms, billowing clouds that would come in, and you could see them almost a day away.
Wow.
And say, it's going to get here. And sure enough, the next day you see that same black cloud creep in, lightning strikes. We did it. All of our power came from a generator, too. There's nothing plugged in. So when lightning struck, we had to shut down completely. So we lost about 3 days to that just due to Mother Nature. But it offers the opportunity to shoot a landscape that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Now, one last question before we go. Billy, Kaylee, as Frank and Penelope, both did an amazing job. Their chemistry, their romance, their love is like a flashback to like the 50s, 60s type movies where, these powerful love stories are told. Is that something you intentionally wanted to capture for this film?
100%. I wanted Billy to have that old school thing, like a Montgomery Clift, not like a contemporary 2020 movie star, but the old iconic visual.
Is that why he sort of really looks like James Dean?
James Dean. Of course. And I wanted her to be a cross between a delicate Audrey Hepburn and a sexually violent Marilyn Monroe.
Oh.
And I think they came out of they went on the first frame that we shot, and that realized everything that I envisioned.
That is so...
Out of the park, they knocked it. I stuck him in a white T-shirt and slacks for that very reason. The wardrobe could have come straight out of 1955.
One last, I know I said that was the last. I just got to ask one last question. If a sequel presents itself to you, would you jump on it?
You don't say no to these opportunities like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I truly, everybody throws around. I see people that are so full of shit use the word grateful, but I am. These opportunities, these unbridled opportunities, they don't come around.
No.
And Alan Gilmer and Scott Dolezal really set me loose to chase a vision and a dream.
Well,
and they were holding my hand the whole way. But the fact that they let me do this is beyond me. I would make 52 of these. I really would. It was one of the best jobs that has ever befallen me.
And congratulations, you did knock it out of the park. Sean, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing these amazing stories. Guys, again, the movie is called Frank and Penelope. It's releasing in 50 cities nationwide on June.
So let me tell you this. We are coming out in every theater in the United States that Top Gun is not already in, which leaves about 50.
That's awesome. Please check it out. You are not going to be disappointed. This film has a little bit of everything for everyone. Again, thank you to Sean Patrick Flanery, who's at Cannes Film Festival. Enjoy the rest of the festival. Thank you to all our audience who tuned in live and those of you who will watch this later on. On behalf of Sean Patrick Flanery and myself, stay safe, stay walking. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.
God bless, brother.